Okay, the next step of shading after you've gotten your shadows, and they should be very big, very expressive, make sure you got all your shadows first, is you'll want to start doing your tints. And then when we do our tints, those are typically called highlights. And so again, you would want to use your hex code assignment to get your tint color, and then this will be its own layer as well. In the previous video, I explained how to make a little group for these, and so hopefully you have these all in a group. So this is going to be the one that I have for this demo. So when we're looking at these before we even get started, you'll notice that like I do have a bigger highlight over here, but that's like the biggest area. And then other than that, they're kind of just like small little shapes, small little forms that I've got going on, but nothing quite as large as the shadows. The shadows should by far be bigger than your highlights. So I'm going to turn those off for a moment, and then we're going to go through this process together. So I've got my highlight color already loaded, and then when it comes to doing the size, I chose a pretty big brush for my shadows, but I might need to actually make it a little bit smaller for my highlights, since again they are going to be smaller. And then just like my highlights, shadows, I'm going to look for where they are. So I've got like these really tiny areas, and imagine each of these highlights, this is kind of like if the sun were shining, or like if you put like a flashlight on your animal, where would it just barely touch? Like where would the brightest areas be? Usually they're in opposite places. So like for example, if it's going to be a shadow on one side, on the other side you're probably going to get a little bit more of a highlight. So like I've got this shadow on this part of the belly, and that's why I got like such a big highlight on this other side where the sun is kind of coming in. And just like before, these highlights are going to be their own shapes. They're not just going to be little forms, or sorry, not just going to be little lines that hug the edge, but they will be smaller. Some of these will look like little lines, depending on how small that they are, but they should be their own little shape, kind of like this. I am still using that previous trick of the eraser to get the size smoothed out. But the best advice I can give you is just go small, and then you can always add on more. So I'll turn this off, and you can kind of see those highlights again. So in this area, one place I might want to clean up is this. Looks a little bit too round, but you can kind of see like I did very similar places. There's not as much on the wings because the wings have a lot more shadow. You gotta imagine these wings are facing down, like this part here is going down, and then what's above it, these little bits, that's getting like the top highlight because that's where the sun is actually reaching. Okay, hopefully this helps. This is the last step before you're all done.